Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us for the mid-season recap of Tyrannosaurus Tex Season 12.
Let's go.
I got my notes here. Last year this took like 90 minutes, and I think at the very beginning I was like, I'm going to try and make this be less than 60 minutes, but less than 30 minutes if possible. Got a new format. I'm going to say it again. It's going to be less than 60 minutes, but probably more than 30 minutes. So I hope everybody enjoys it.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
So big thoughts on the season. Got a few notes. You did just find out here just now that in week 7, where it looked like you'd beaten me by 1.5 after corrections. Yeah, I ended up winning that game. I only found that out last night, honestly, when I was doing these slides. But definitely different this season. 6 teams are making the playoffs.
Yeah.
So halfway through,
Yeah.
I think everybody wants to be looking at where they are. And there's like a little push that's going to happen like in the second half of the next half of the season.
Mm-hmm.
But we were talking about this too. Points are going to be incredibly important. That's the tiebreaker. Different leagues do it differently. But always set your lineups, because if there are like 6 teams that all have the same record at the end of the season, the one with the most points is the one that's going to, climb the ranks.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I'm not feeling too bad about the stat correction loss to you, because I'm gonna get that back.
Yeah. Just kind of big thoughts that I saw when I was putting this together. The tale of 2 seasons. I want to talk about the league on this this graphic, not necessarily teams, but we had 2 people, the Iowa Syndicate. We had Jami and Corey that both had first round draft picks, and their seasons could not be any different. And we'll get into that, but just kind of that whole draft pick trading, is it worth it? The small sample size, jury's still out.
This is very true. All right, and to start us off, in 12th place right now currently, we have Chef Steph at 0-7.
Yeah.
It's not looking great for Stefan out there.
Not what we're used to.
No, and I mean, it's not like he's not trying. He's currently done 20 different moves trying to get the right people on his team. But, I mean, just here looking at his roster, one thing really speaks to me. You really shouldn't build your fantasy team around Cowboys.
Players. Oh, my God. So, I mean, Ash and I are big Cowboys fans. And in the recaps, I think I've called it the 3-headed cowboy strategy, or 3-headed cowboy roster over and over again.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't agree more. The thing that was good about the Cowboys is that it wasn't going to be split between Zeke and Tony.
Mm-hmm.
But everything else, fucking Mike McCarthy, pissed me off all the time.
Yeah.
Dak, just...
I've got Dak in like 2 other leagues.
Oh, yeah, I have him starting for me. Or I had him starting for me in a bunch of leagues. And, yeah, just a big disappointment. And then...
In one league I have him in, I am completely defeated right now as well.
Ooh. Yeah. A couple leagues I had Dak and Anthony Richardson, as my backup. But, yeah, those are just not good situations. And, yeah, the 3-headed cowboy strategy for Steph.
Yeah, and, I mean, to be fair... Steph has allowed 1,196 points, which is the second most points allowed to any team. So he's been getting hit pretty hard, but at the same time, he has the least amount of points in the entire league. And that's just, Steph's 350 points behind the leader of the league. That's a lot to get back. And honestly, we could probably say not a lot of chance for getting into the playoffs for Chef Steph this year.
It's certainly not pretty. He'll probably be playing spoiler, moving down as the Cowboys turn on and kind of get more used to being themselves. And also in Stefan's defense, he got me doing it. Drafted from the 11th spot. So Tony Pollard at the 11th, it's not bad at all, but this is what you get.
Yep.
Sorry, bud. No surprise here. Chef Steph's word to sum up this season, abysmal.
Yeah. I mean, we just talked a lot about it, all the reasons why it's not working. And I mean, all I can say is I feel for you. You'll get your chance again in in future years.
I feel the Tony Pollard photo kind of puts it all together. It's like, what do you want me to do?
Come on, man.
Come on, man. And then what stands out to Stefan this season, almost dropping Adam Thielen in week 1. And I drafted Thielen a couple places and did drop him. And we'll talk, yeah. But definitely holding on to Thielen is the move, and will probably help Chef Steph spoil some people's run at the playoffs in the future.
I agree. And for Stefan's answer, or for his question he'd like to ask, how good does a win feel in 2023? I mean, I haven't had as many as I like, but I gotta say each one feels pretty good, unless they're taken away by stupid stat corrections.
Yeah, and having just won a game by a fortuitous stat correction, it does feel pretty good.
So yeah, winning always feels good.
Yeah. And up next, we have Jami's Azkaban Death Eaters. Jami had 2 first-round draft picks, and from the 4th and the 6th spot, she picked Austin Eckler and Travis Kelce, respectively. Talked about this a little bit at the beginning. You got a tale of 2 seasons in the Iowa Syndicate household.
Yeah.
And this is the darker side. Austin Eckler, amazing first game, but then sat, I don't know, however many weeks. Definitely put a dent in that plan of getting, an RB1, tight end 1. I think even Travis Kelce, I think he sat out a game too, but has obviously been on fire since Taylor Swift blessed him with her blessings.
Yeah. I mean, I think he owes everything to Taylor right now. And I just hope that they continue building a strong relationship, and we get to see a wedding televised one day.
Oh my God. Roster looks really good.
Yeah, I mean, I guess Burrow probably starting the season a little shaky, but
Ooh, yeah, there's another one.
He's probably finally coming around. But I mean, otherwise, it just seems like just a lot of bad luck. I mean, given total points for 984, which is second lowest in the league, so it's like you just kind of wonder what's going on. I mean, it seems like the talent's there. It's just they're just not performing.
Yeah, I mean, it's injuries is what it is. Even looking at the defense, I know those defensive players. I know they're all really good. But Nick Bolton, out again. Cody Barton, out. I know Logan Wilson. One of my losses, one of Jami's 2 wins, was stomping me. And definitely Logan Wilson showed out, as did Travis Kelce and others. But just a spit of bad luck, and mathematically still in it. Because 2 and 5 is only so far away from 4 and 3, which is where a lot of us are. 4 and 3 and 3 and 4.
I mean, yeah, right now I think I'm in 6th place at 3 and 4.
Yeah.
So a lot of time left. A lot of things can happen for Jami. So,
and definitely something that comes up every Tuesday night for me. She's number 2 in the waiver wire, so can get pretty much whoever she wants.
Yeah. So we'll see what the season has in store for her moving forward.
Mm-hmm.
Jami's one word to describe her season so far is crestfallen, which, again, like we were just talking about, I completely agree. I understand that. It seems like the pieces are there. You just got to get them healthy and get them right. But the way it's shaping up, Jami might be set up for a good second half push. And her remarkable thing about the season so far is kind of goes hand in hand. She says, my first win, which was during week 6, it felt like forever getting to that first W. I mean, that was only 2 weeks ago, and she was completely defeated until then, and now she's legitimately one win away from possibly being in a playoff spot. So, maybe a little bit more than that, but a lot of season left, so no reason to get too down on yourself just yet, Jamie.
Yeah, she's hurting in the points total, so gonna need some decisive victories. But yeah, the fall from high up hurts a little bit more.
Yeah.
Definitely drafting Austin Eckler, drafting Travis Kelce, have great expectations
Mm-hmm.
dashed upon the rocks.
We've all been there.
Jamie's question: can we do another shot / FaceTime video at the end of the season? Well, Jamie, definitely we want to do one before the Super Bowl. I think that's become a bit of a tradition. And actually, this is the first season that we've done bylaws, which I believe are posted in Facebook. And we are, I guess, statutorily, we are now mandated to do a mid-season recap. So we'll send out an invitation to do that. Let's say next Sunday on Kelley Wilson's birthday.
Yeah, and then even after that, I do think it would be fun for us to possibly have another like Zoom FaceTime situation, maybe going into the fantasy playoffs or right before the championship round or something around there. That could be a lot of fun as well.
Yeah, we'll have to sort that out.
Yeah, we'll sort it out, but absolutely, Jamie, we will do more of those.
Yeah. This is a team Kelley and I love saying on the recaps, Tom's Tomato Sauce.
Or as I like to say, Tom's Tomato Sauce.
Yeah. Tom traded away his first and third round draft picks. And his first 3 picks were Devontae Smith in the second round, Miles Sanders, then Lamar Jackson in the 4th round. Lamar Jackson currently 4th among QBs, but I think that draft situation kind of helps explain why our good buddy is at 2-5 in 10th place.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's not quite putting up the top tier level points, although he is kind of right mid level of the amount of points he's gotten this year. He's just been going up against a lot of teams that were also putting up good number of points. But yeah, you got injuries keeping him down, and then just some underperformers that unfortunately just happen sometimes when you get kind of wild with your draft picks.
I can't remember the other win that he got, but I know one of the wins that he got, his MVP on the background slide was Justin Reed, which when you have a defensive player kind of stealing the limelight from your whole rest of your roster, not always a good thing. But I'm looking at the roster. I can kind of see what he did with drafting Jonathan Taylor, who is now turning it on. Terry McLaurin definitely not performing like you would think he would, but that might be turning around. I see Ayuk, obviously Devontae Smith, but then pretty thin at running back, and that Miles Sanders being the first running back picked kind of speaks to that.
Yeah, and really in this league, you need at least one and a half solid running backs to really kind of help you through. But I don't know. Again, he's really 2-5, so really not that far behind the middle of the pack, and he has some decent points. So who knows? It could be another situation where people just start catching fire and he starts moving up the ranks.
Definitely Lamar Jackson is a force, and I don't know if anything ever happened to A.J. Brown. Jonathan Taylor is like standalone, could be RB1 the rest of the season.
Yeah. I mean, we're just going to have to see how the rest of the season plays out for Tom. Next up, we have Lauren's 1 hot 2 minute drill coming in at 9th place. She is now the the lowest ranked 3 and 4 team. There's a good chunk of those here in the league thus far. Started the season real strong. Unfortunately, she's gone on a 3-game losing streak, so that's not really helping her out too much. But
Yeah, and I think the tail of that is drafting from the 12th and getting Nick Chubb, which I think Nick Chubb was probably a better selection at 12 than Tony Pollard at 10.
yeah,
And probably she was winning games until he went out. Because they, what was it, 3-game losing streak?
yeah,
I think that lines up, yeah.
yeah. So,
But guess what? Nick Chubb, God closes a Nick Chubb and opens an Alvin Kamara.
yeah, he's definitely returning to previous season's form in that role, putting up the numbers. I mean, I remember a few years back, like 2-3 years ago, he was like the shit.
Mm-hmm.
And like, I mean, I had him in a ton of leagues, but he's been quiet for a little while.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to imagine with Alvin Kamara and Mark Andrews weeks, the last 2 weeks, that she could be in this spot. But I can also see Devontae Adams probably playing a role in that. I know he's been really dissatisfied the last few weeks without without Jimmy Garoppolo, handsome G. So maybe that'll turn around. Definitely a lot of potential here on this roster. I'm always looking for what's the weak spot, and it's almost always the tight end, and that is not the case here.
It's very true. And again, sitting 3 and 4 right now, at this point, it's basically like we're just starting a fresh season. It's almost anything can happen. So, got to look out for Lauren. I think she has some good things coming her way.
See a couple of my favorite people on defense, and then 2 kickers. 2 kickers.
I mean, it's not really hurting her too bad right now, but that is a bold strategy.
It's a bold strategy.
Not one that I don't know that I probably would go for at this point. Although I definitely did think about getting a couple kickers. But my kickers just doing me just fine right now. So I'll stick with them.
We'll talk about them in a bit.
Yeah.
Yep. Good news, Lauren. We were able to get the emoji in, but we're also using the word downhill is how Lauren described her season, which I think makes sense given, again, the man on the slide there, Mr. Nickathy Chubb. Thoughts on the season? Lauren says, even drafting 2 decent quarterbacks does not ensure you'll have a quarterback by the time week 8 rolls around. Lauren, I gotta tell you, I know one of those quarterbacks was Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
So...
Yeah.
Brock Purdy lighting it up, though.
Yeah, I mean, doing what he can, but you draft Deshaun Watson, it's kind of what you get.
Kelley says that's what you get.
Yeah. Lauren's question for the commissioners is, what is your favorite part of commissioning? And for me, that's really easy. It's the power. It's that overwhelming feeling of just being in charge of something so great and holding the happiness and sadness of other people in the palm of my hand. It's great.
Similarly, I do say that Kelley and I are benevolent dictators, and that this is not a democracy. This is not, what does everybody decide? It really is like if Kelley and I are on the same page, that's what's happening.
Yeah.
Which is unique because everywhere else I'm super, let's get everybody's input and just not here. So I definitely understand that answer. For me, I'll give the wholesome side of the coin, in that I really love staying in touch with everybody that's in this league. Really, Mr. Tomatoes House is the weirdo here, who's a cousin of Tony's that I know not even all of us know Tony. I certainly know Tony, but I've never met Tom in real life.
Right.
But he lucked the fuck out And just when it was like year 2 of this, and I think year 1 we started out with a bunch of Jeremy's brother James's friends in the league, and then they were like, "All right, that was fun," and then dropped out, and we're like, "We need just anybody." And Tony was like, "I know a guy."
Yep.
So Tom, we're friends on Facebook. I watched his kids grow up, so now I feel like I know him. Definitely, probably. I mean, Tony should know him the best, but after Tony in the fantasy league, me. But it's definitely great. Flying out to DC and hugging Lauren and seeing Stephanie Shu's kids and just staying in touch with everybody is a big part of this for me. And then the raw unadulterated power. Next we have Abby's Bosa Boys traded away her first round draft pick in a not disastrous because she got to the championship, but in a asterisk championship game. Didn't end up sealing the deal, but that ended up having her draft Josh Jacobs in the second round. And after that, I mean, this might be like the definition of a mid team. Drafted Kyle Pitts for a tight end. Who's that quarterback? Trevor Lawrence. Ugh. Yeah. Not a lot of luck on the roster I'm seeing, although I do see one person on there that kind of gets me a little fired up, and that's Puka Nacua, but we'll talk about that in a bit.
Yeah, and I mean, anytime you got old man Kirk on the team, it's you're playing with fire because he's a boomer bust, and it's mostly just busts with him.
Yeah.
He's too old. It's too white.
I think he probably puts up great stats playing from behind all the time, though.
This is true. But, I mean, right now, Abby sitting 3-4, just like a bunch of us right now. The first team on the list of teams to have put up more points than has allowed. So, definitely, I mean, right now, mid, but again, just depending on how it works out, definitely possible to make the playoffs, but just got to get healthy.
I think her defense is my favorite part of her team.
Yeah. You got some dogs on that defense.
Got some dogs. No submissions from Abby, but I suspect that has a lot to do with the fact that she just got married.
Congratulations, Abby.
Yeah, so married, and congratulations to you.
Yes. And coming in current 7th place, we have Ashley's football emoji. Ashley having just what I would call a classic Ashley season. She's putting up tons of points, but unfortunately she has had the most points against out of anyone else in the league this year, despite having the 3rd most points for. So right now she's sitting in 3-4, and again, that's all just purely matchup based. Definitely could be in the top tier, but just has some bad luck.
171 points per week is pretty high. Picked Bijan Robinson with the 9th pick in the draft, so sitting at 7th with the 9th pick. What stands out on Ashley's roster is she has Josh Allen, who is currently number 1 among quarterbacks. And y'all, this is the woman I get to watch football with every night. And anytime Josh Allen is balling out, she is a happy camper. Also love the emoji approach, because I know that came from a place of, I'm not going to fart around with team names and stuff. It's fucking football. Here's your football emoji.
It works. It's become a classic.
It is a classic.
And I wouldn't change it for the world.
She's my favorite stable genius.
I mean, for me, looking at her roster, she's got real solid stable wide receivers. I mean, she's got Keenan Allen, Garrett Wilson. I mean, what's his name? Zay Flowers?
Yep.
Yeah. bunch of pretty strong guys in there. Uh, Running backs not quite as strong. Probably in one place you could really use a little bit of help in, but other than that, like we said, just a real strong roster pretty much all the way through. Real excited. Hopefully we can actually see Ash have some real success, possibly bring the trophy back to Austin. But a lot of time left. We'll just have to see if she just keeps getting that bad luck.
Another strong defense.
Mm-hmm.
And Ashley's one word for the season, mid. Not surprising, given the 7th place, which, like 7th and 6th, are like the middle of what's going on. But, again, looking to turn things around on the legs and back of that gentleman there, Bijan Robinson.
And her standout thing of the season so far is that she says, honestly, the relief of a successful draft. I was more prepared than ever going into the season, and it's the first time I didn't feel immediately awful about my team. Which is interesting, because I always thought that Ashley drafts really well.
She's
really
gotten
strong.
best draft. I think she got it 3 years in a row, and like every year she doesn't get it, it's like A instead of A+.
Right. So, I mean, she knows how to draft for sure. She just... Sometimes you need the cards to fall in your favor.
And in 6th place, so talking about playoffs now, right? This year, again, new this year, 6 people instead of 4 are going to the playoffs. So this is where you want to be. You want to be 6 and up. And Kelley, your Blue 42, who selected Jamar Chase with the 3rd pick, has put out a ton of points.
Yeah, I mean, feeling pretty good about things, except for I'm still trying to get over the stat correction and having lost last week instead of winning, because before the stat correction I was in 3rd place in the league, and that stat correction dropped me down to 6th place. But it's okay, because I have the 2nd most points for in the league, so any wins for me coming up are just gonna shoot me up the rankings, because I'm so much far ahead of almost everyone else.
I think a wide receiver tandem of Jamar Chase and Cooper Kupp is pretty highly coveted. I know I don't have a wide receiver duo like that. So, a little bit of jelly over here.
And I've got a pretty strong strong running backs as well.
Yeah, if Breece Hall stays in it, I mean, he's got all the talent. It's just like, how often are they playing from behind? And then Travis Etienne is just great.
And I don't know if you paid any attention to it, but I remember at the start of the season, after I drafted, I don't even know his first name, to be honest, but Ford.
Jerome, yeah.
Yeah, Jerome Ford. You're
really
like, why are you drafting him?
That's right. That should definitely come up right now.
And
everywhere else, I have Jerome Ford now in like 3 or 4 leagues because he was fucking out there, and you nailed it. You nailed it on Jerome Ford.
I mean, I knew something told me that Chubb was gonna not make it all the way through. So I looked it up, and he was the backup to Chubb, and I was like, all right, let's go. And I knew he's young, but he has a lot of potential, and he's really, really helped me out this season, so I feel real proud about that.
And you should. And definitely, you drafted him, and then however many weeks Nick Chubb was good. Like, he was doing nothing, right? Yeah.
Which I still thought, even with Chubb playing, he would put up some points, because he's still the number 2 on that team. So you'd think he'd still get some carries. But, you know, sometimes the fantasy gods smile upon your boldness, and it has paid off for me so far. My one word to encapsulate the season so far in terms of my team is expected. This is basically exactly what I expected to happen. I drafted some people that were hurt that I knew weren't going to be playing a lot at the beginning of the season. And the first quarter of the season would be rough, and I was just prepared to go through that because I knew that if my team could get healthy, then it'd be a juggernaut. And I mean, so far, knock on wood, that's exactly what's happening. So we're right on track, we're right on schedule, and I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. Yeah. And as far as what stands out to me about the season so far is the fact that my draft strategy actually worked this year. Like, I knew going in that it was dangerous getting some injured players and just banking on the fact that they would get healthy and things would get going good. And it's actually working. So, pretty stoked about that. And because I am one of the commissioners, I do not have a question for the commissioners, but I do have a question to pose to the league. Just a thought. Maybe we can chat about it in the Yahoo chats or whatever. But we've been together for a long time now, and I do think it'll be pretty cool at some point, possibly next season, to have an in-person draft where we all travel to some location and spend a day or two together and just hang out, talk football, have some fun, draft together. And yeah. I mean, we can see how it goes, just gauging the temperature, but that's my question to everyone out there.
My one word for that, ambitious.
I mean, it is, but again, we got a lot of time, and if it's not next year, it could be the year after. Just at some point before this is all over, I'd like to see it happen.
Coming in fifth place and beginning the rung on the ladder of 4 and 3 record holders, it's Tony's It's My Dak in a Box, who selected Tyreek Hill with the 7th pick of the draft, and Tyreek Hill, is number 1 among wide receivers, doing incredible things.
Yeah, Tony, I mean, trying to repeat again, last year's champion, putting up a pretty strong case for going at it again. He's not quite up there in total points for as some of the other teams. But he's, again, just trucking along, getting real, I'm not going to say lucky, but only putting up 148 points per week.
Stands out.
It does kind of stand out. I mean, he has pretty low points against him, so he's been pretty lucky, but he's also been one of the most busiest people on the waivers.
Oh, yeah.
Well, he is. He's had 23 moves he's made so far this season.
League leading?
League leading.
Nice.
And it seems like it's working out for him pretty well.
He's got Justin Tucker in that kicker position, who I know was not living up to expectations until last week or the week before.
Yeah. But, I mean, solid lineup, and, I mean, I wouldn't put it past him to be in the playoffs late again this year.
I think looking at his lineup, the thing that stands out, or the bet of the season for him, has been David Montgomery. Because definitely Jahmyr Gibbs, the stats around first round draft pick running backs, dominating in touches. I faded David Montgomery a lot of places, but Tony definitely benefited from him going off with multiple touchdowns in several weeks.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Tony's one word for the season is variable, which starts with the letter V, which you see Tyreek Hill doing with his fingers there, but I assume speaks to the up and down nature of Tony's season. Maybe not expecting to do as well as he did, drafting folks like David Montgomery, but then the joy of seeing him go off, and then maybe the lows of Justin Tucker not performing, and then suddenly performing when David Montgomery steps aside.
Yep, and I honestly kind of forgot about this until just now, but Tony saying his most remarkable moment of the season thus far is, and I quote, that this auto draft piece of shit team has come together thus far to give me a winning record with over 20 waiver wires, I might add. Which I completely forgot. He was on vacation. He was like on a cruise or something. We're trying to get to a cruise for the draft. So, Yeah, his team auto drafted, and I guess with that many waiver moves, you can turn an auto draft team into something pretty decent.
You just have to want it.
Yep, you just gotta want it. And Tony's question to the commissioners is, why do you hate the themes so much? Nathan, why do you hate themes so much?
When I was a small lad, a theme bit me in the ass. No. I feel like we've talked about this last however many times. But when we were doing themes, the season theme corresponded with whatever year it was, that selection in an anthology of media, which is a long way of saying, like, season 3 was Azkaban because that was the third book in Harry Potter. Season 4 was A New Hope because that was the fourth chapter of Star Wars. And that was not going to be sustainable indefinitely. I think we could have made it to like 13 relatively easily, but getting into shittier and shittier franchises of media. So that's why we cut off the themes. Not to say there will never be a theme again, but kind of have to balance. You know, some owners want to have, like, that's the name of their team in perpetuity, and themes kind of mess with that. I like a theme. I mean, not most. There's other leagues that we play in that are themed that I enjoy it. I don't mind it. But the reason we don't do themes anymore is because that was the theme of our themes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I guess, long story short, we just gotta think of better themes for themes. But again, I am starting to feel like there's a lot of want out there for themes. So
yeah, and they are fun.
I think we're definitely gonna have a serious conversation about that in the off season this year, and can't guarantee anything. It's again, we're a dictatorship. It's just whatever we decide, but we'll definitely take it into consideration.
Yeah, the fickle whims of Summer, Nathan, and Kelley.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. And in fourth place, we have, and I will go to Texas.
So
He snuck right into that fourth position with some stat corrections, but that's okay. It's still early. I'm not mad about it. Again, sitting in the 4-3 group, averaging 157, almost 158 points a week, which is solid. Roster-wise, I mean, pretty okay. Real light in the quarterback position.
I'm holding this whole thing together with duct tape.
Yeah, it's you're one brisk breeze away from everything just falling apart, I would say.
Yeah. So we had that draft mix-up at the beginning.
Yeah.
Where we're like, hey guys, we're gonna do a test draft. This draft won't count.
Yep.
And I selected Justin Jefferson because that was like the consensus number one.
Mm-hmm.
But in my heart of hearts, I knew I wanted CMC. So when it was, reset, I picked CMC. And then Brian, who was a big Justin Jefferson guy, got Justin Jefferson, which I think we're all happy about. And definitely as the season played on, I just know CMC is going to, like, do what was it, Bo Jackson, where he like tore the muscle off his bone.
Yeah.
Doing some ridiculous, too strong for his own good bullshit. I just know that's coming for me. Justin Fields, bet on him based on some hype I was hearing about him being this year's Jalen Hurts, which has not panned out.
You're listening to Dan Orlovsky, weren't you?
Maybe.
Dan Orlovsky was real high on Justin Fields, saying that he was going to be in the MVP conversation this year.
Dane Orlovsky. See, if I knew that was like even tangentially related to Orlovsky, I wouldn't have done it because I don't like that guy.
I mean, I don't trust him at all in really what he talks about in terms of football. But yeah, you got some bad information.
I covet your wide receiver duo because I have nothing like that. Like Calvin Ridley was supposed to be my A1. He's not performed like that. I think my best receiver is Raheem Rashid, who's getting a lot of points off of returns. So that's not a great place to be with the wide receivers, with my running backs, CMC and who? Like Rashad White.
Gibbs.
Jahmyr Gibbs is, that was my other big bet that just has not panned out. He's done really well the last week. He'll probably do well again this week, but has already had a hamstring issue. So just not super duper excited about my roster per se, but, like myself, just putting it together. My one word for the season, pride. And two ways about that. The sunny side, right? I'm very proud of this league. I was happy the first time we had like a 10-person league and we didn't have to change any members out. And now we've got a 12-person league and we haven't had to change any members out for, I think this is the third year. Mm-hmm. Love that. And that's the good side of pride. It's just me being proud of all of you in this league and this thing that we enjoy doing every year and getting a little bit better at doing every year. The opposite side of that is things like drafting Puka Nacua with the last pick in the draft, and it was weeks. I think I had him for 2 weeks, and he did really well because Cooper Kupp was out. But I was like, Cooper Kupp's going to come back. It's not going to be good. And this is probably just flash in the pan. Let me work on my defense. Let me spend a waiver on Marcus Jones, who was like second most defensive points last year thanks to his return duties, and just spitting in my own face, pissing in the wind, as they say, because I knew coming into the season that they had that rule where you can, what is it called when you are going to fair catch, and you get better yardage. So that return yards should be less this year than they were in previous years. And I was still like, no, Marcus Jones. And then Puka Nacua is just like a receiver god. And that's like, I need help all over my roster. But it would be much better off if I had Puka Nacua and didn't have Jamal Agnew, who I had for just the whole season. I think I only finally let him go, thinking that he would turn it on. So, yeah, pride before the fall, and don't be a proud dummy like me. All right, thanks for listening so far. Final 3 coming up, and these next 2 are frankly my favorites, just because of the grit. And, well, let's get into it. Third place right now is Brian's Jefferson List Star Destroyer, who drafted Justin Jefferson with the second pick, like we were just talking about. Mm-hmm. And, as you might expect, was, doing pretty well and, winning here, maybe losing there, but then lost Justin Jefferson weeks ago. And since then, the Vikings have still been doing well, but Brian has still been doing well. He's averaging more than me, 164 points per week, and is sitting in third on the strength of that total points output, and just being on the top of that again over all the other 4 and 3 folks, specifically myself and Tony.
Yeah, and Brian right up there in the top echelon of people in terms of how many moves he's made. He's been a busy little beaver, 19 total roster moves so far this season, which is quite a lot.
I think I mentioned this in the Yahoo chat that anytime I need to do something on waivers, which I try not to have be that often, I'm always looking at Brian and Tony's rosters to see what I think they need, because every week they're both doing something, Brian and Tony.
Yeah. And, honestly, looking at his roster right now as it sits, Jalen Hurts is crushing it for him, doing some big things. But after that, no real standouts per se. Just a bunch of just solid performers.
Yeah, I have a huge affinity, not just for Brian the person, but Brian the fantasy manager, because I think we really do see through the same set of eyes a lot. Like I see Foye, Aluakon, I see Bobby Wagner, who are people that I covet on defense. I threw out some expletives when he drafted Bobby Wagner, but Chris Godwin is on a bunch of my rosters. James Cook is on a couple of my rosters. Uh, I have Justin Fields because I thought he was a poor man's Jalen Hurts. It's just Brian and I definitely come at this similarly, and I can tell. And Brian's one word for the season: defensive. Presumably speaking to his amazing players on defense. Miles Garrett, I know, went off last week. But I believe Foye Oluokun is leading in tackles, but definitely a force. Definitely had a pick six last week or the week before. I've had him as Brian's MVP on the recap. And then Bobby Wagner, I mean, he's like 47 or however old he is, but he's just fucking crushing it always.
Yeah.
And I get the word defensive here.
Yeah.
What's the remarkable thing?
So his remarkable thing is that the Vikings and the Star Destroyer are still winning without JJ, which, I mean, that is quite remarkable. Both of those things are quite remarkable, but we'll just see if that can continue to last.
Yeah, he's been a good sport. Obviously started calling him Jefferson Liz Star Destroyer as a nod to Justin Jefferson not playing anymore. Brian was quick to adopt that team name, so thank you for doing that, sir.
Yeah. And Brian comes in with 2 questions for the commissioners this midseason recap. First question: what is your favorite moment in the history of football? Nate, what do you got one?
So I mean, I'm a Cowboys fan and grew up watching Troy Aikman and Emmitt Smith and all of them do what they did, but I think in recent memory, it's got to be some of the things that Tom Brady was able to do. Definitely that Patriots Falcons Super Bowl. I think that might have been like right after I came back from deployment. And that Julian Edelman catch, like in the middle of the field, where there's a still photo of it, where like there's no way possible that this is a catch, and it was. That, I mean, just a lot of the Tom Brady as a person and the Tom Brady-ness of the last 20 years. It's hard. I mean, favorite might not be the word, but definitely casts a long, long shadow of that was amazing, that was awesome, I can't believe he did that with that roster. That might be it for me. And I definitely have some favorite fantasy moments, but do you have a football moment?
Well, I had one picked out that I was going to say, but the one I was thinking of is actually about college football. Because, I mean, me growing up, I didn't really care for the NFL until I was like, I hit my 20s pretty much.
Yeah.
For the most part. And all football was to me was the University of Michigan. And whatever, stuff's going on right now. We're not here to talk about that. But I think one of the greatest memories I'll ever have about football in general is the first time I was able to go to the big house and see a game live. That was just top 3 moments of my entire life.
Nice.
It was just absolutely incredible just getting to be there, actually being there in person after watching hundreds of games throughout my entire life since being like, I have pictures of me of like 3 years old, like fully dressed up in Michigan garb and at like a Michigan pep rally somewhere. So it's been in my blood. So that's probably my singular favorite football moment for me. But if I had to pick one NFL moment specifically, it would be very similar to what you said. Like, I mean, I was the Tom Brady stan. Like, I loved him. I followed him from Michigan, and since the Houston didn't have the Oilers anymore, I decided to just follow the Patriots. And then if I had to like single in on one thing, it would be when we went to go see the Texans play the Patriots. and
Mm-hmm.
at Energy Stadium or whatever it was called at the time. And I mean, that was absolutely great to me because that was the first time I ever got to see Tom Brady in person live playing. I got to see J.J. Watt play live.
What?
I got to see Deshaun Watson before he was a bad guy play, and it was still okay to root for him. And the Texans won.
They won somehow, yeah.
So that whole thing, that whole experience was just, it checked so many NFL boxes for me that I'll always remember it.
Yeah, you're right, and that's, now that you're talking about like being places in person, because we see these questions and we answer on the spot. But now that you're talking about like being in the place, obviously,
yeah,
my bad. Obviously, the favorite football memory is Ash and I going to AT&T Stadium and taking her to her first football game last year when we played the Bengals. Sort of similar of like, you don't expect Tom Brady to lose to the Texans.
Yeah.
Dak Prescott had just like broken his thumb. He was out. He just lost miserably to the Buccaneers, which was that because our team stinks, or is it because no Dak or whatever? But either way, going to play the Bengals, who had just played in the Super Bowl the year before, Ash and I did not have high expectations, but from like the drive up there, listening to football, having a good time, parking and seeing all the partying, and then doing a little bit of tailgating of our own in the car. That was great. And then just walking to the stadium, the vibe, she was loving it the whole time. And then getting in the stadium, just how much Ashley loved that whole experience. And then the Cowboys won. And won in a very entertaining fashion. And that was just glorious. So that's definitely got to be the favorite football moment.
Yeah. And then second question that Brian had was, what is your favorite moment in the history of fantasy football? I mean, that's really easy for me, and it was my very first championship win. That's was maybe 4 or 5 seasons into Tyrannosaurus Tex, and it wasn't until then that until then we didn't have a trophy, but once I won, I decided that it was time for us to have a trophy. So that has now birthed the trophy that is currently being held by Tony, and really hope I get to just see the old gal on my mantle again sometime soon. But just winning that championship and then the building of the trophy, and now it's a thing that's lasted for years and years and has already traveled across the country.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Favorite implies just one, but yeah, it's definitely, mine went straight to the video that you made after Chris Demure and that field goal and how great that was. The next thing I thought of was Corey won a championship on the strength of like a Aaron Jones like 50 or 60 yard run out of nowhere to, like, he needed that. It might have been on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
Or like Sunday Night Football and no other players were playing. But it was that sort of like high drama of there's no way unless Aaron Jones can do something crazy, and then he did something crazy, and we were watching the game together, you and me.
Yeah.
And we were just like freaking out, and that was cool. And then when I won the championship, I can't hardly remember it, but I remember that there were not shenanigans, but like some bullshit where I thought I had set my roster and I didn't, and there was a guy that put up a 0, and it made me look like a fucking incompetent, no good loser, unworthy of love, compassion, or pity, and still somehow winning, which is the Nathan way. This is my favorite team and roster, I have to say. Slippin' Steffi, Stephanie Shoe, Slippany, whatever you want to say. This is the most impressive to me. With the 10th pick, second place Stephanie picked Saquon Barkley. He's missed at least one game, hasn't gone crazy, and yet Stephanie is in second place with an unblemished 7-0 perfect record.
Yeah, I mean, super solid team with just consistent performances. I mean, averaging 162 points a week, which is definitely up there for sure. Will say, though, that Stephanie does have the least points allowed out of any team. So she's gotten the luckiest and has had the easiest schedule by a long shot. But even still, she does the work, gets it done, has a great team, and is just killing it right now.
Even though she's had it kind of easy as far as folks trying to put points on her, she's put out a good amount of points for, despite like every single week in the last 7 weeks not playing somebody, having some hole in her roster, and still, pulling out the W. 3 waiver moves is literally the least. So she drafted what she drafted and pretty much stuck with it. And because of that, like first in waivers, so if she ever wants to grab whoever she wants, she definitely can. And yeah, just mucho impresivo.
Stephanie's one word to describe her season so far is "aight." I think you'll be hard to find anyone else in the league that would just call what she's doing right now as "aight." But I guess if she's trying to take the high road, the humble route, saying "aight" is fair, but you're doing much better than "aight."
This league is by far the most competitive league that I'm in.
Mm-hmm.
And things that speak to that are guys like Jerome Ford should be on waivers. Nah. Mm-hmm. Guys like Sam Laporta should have been on waivers. Nah. Mm-hmm. So Stephanie just knew. And I've been calling her Stephanie Shue. My bad. Stephanie Nishu. I think that's what you say. Just knew that Sam Laporta was going to go off. And he's definitely like a solid part of that offense despite being a rookie. And just kudos to putting it together week after week. Something that needs to be said here or on the next one is that unblemished record ends this week. Because
For someone. Got the battle of the undefeateds. Cannot wait to see what happens. Stephanie's question to the commissioners is, what is the airspeed velocity of an unladen swallow? It is 20.1 miles per hour. And that all brings us to first place, Corey's dig pick. He is 7-0, just like Stephanie, and he has absolutely been crushing it. He ended up with the 5th and the 8th picks in the draft, and he selected Stefan Diggs and Derrick Henry, and it worked. He's crushing it with an outstanding 178.69 points per week. Nice. And he has the most points by a pretty good margin in the entire league at 1,250.85, that's just a lot.
Yeah, I mean, Corey's the guy to beat, like, however you can. I'm looking at this roster, and I know he expected Najee Harris to do better than Isaiah Pacheco, but Isaiah Pacheco, I believe, is doing better than guys like Tony Pollard, which, Pollard's had a bye week, whatever, but just great selections from top to bottom. Tight end George Kittle, I know, has had a couple multiple touchdown weeks. Can't go wrong with Patrick Mahomes. Our league scores half point per completion, minus a half point per incompletion, and guys like Patrick Mahomes that are high volume, high accuracy, that's going to pay off.
Yeah, and it's not like he just drafted really well and has just been resting on his laurels. Corey's had the second most number of moves in the whole league with 21 so far, so he's putting in work, and he's trying to make his great team even better, which is, I don't know how you can really do it, but yeah. But one thing I will say about Corey is, even though he is just totally destroying everybody in terms of points, he does have the second least amount of points allowed, just 13 points more than Stephanie. So he's also had a very easy road thus far. And again, we'll see if he makes it out of this weekend still undefeated or the first one-loss team.
You guys stop taking it easy on Corey.
Corey's one word he would use to describe his season so far is unsolicited, which I have to believe he says that meaning that he is sad that nobody wants to trade with him.
Which surprised me because I don't think I've gotten any trade offers from Corey. But if you're listening to this, presumably maybe you have.
Yeah. But honestly, though, at this point, I really would be scared to do anything to try to help Corey out at all. So anything that I think could benefit him, I don't know if I'd want to get in on that.
Right.
But we'll see. Maybe if he goes on a little losing streak, we'll be willing to talk.
I can't wait to see a bizarre trade from Corey.
And his most remarkable thing so far for the season is he is number one currently in Tyrannosaurus Tex and in Tacklemania league that he runs with mostly his friends in Iowa, which being number one in 2 leagues is pretty. I don't know if I've ever done that. That seems like it'd be a lot of fun.
Indeed. Corey's question to the commissioners is, would you tell the league to accept my shit trades? That is a direct quote. No.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to tell the league to do things.
We're putting this in there so now they're hearing that you want them to do that, but we're not going to tell them to. And like we were just discussing, don't really want to help you out too much, bud. I'm sorry. It's what happens when you're on top.
You don't seem to need it. If you did need it, we'd still probably scoff at this. But, maybe people should send Corey shit trades. And then maybe he'll accept a shit trade. And that'll bring parity back to the league. So maybe instead, league, we're asking you to send Corey shit trades.
Yeah, if every single team bombarded him with shit trades right now, the
commissioner approved.
Nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
And there you have it. That's pretty much where we stand as of now, halfway through the season. Can't believe it's already halfway through. It's just going too fast. But
I know the trade deadline is November 18th. So putting that out there. But other than that, it's 10:50. It's like an hour and 10 minutes before Week 8 Sunday begins. So going to try and edit this and throw this out so you guys get it in the afternoon games.
Yep, but if you made it all the way through, appreciate it. We love all of you very much, and looking forward to the rest of the season.
Ciao, y'all.